The next section is around working effectively with the SEN Governor. The SENCOs that we work with are all pleased there is a governor now with oversight and provision for pupils with special needs. But working effectively with governors is always a challenge in terms of time, both for the governor and for the SENCO. And it's an area that SENCOs are particularly interested in. They really want to make use of this governor for the benefit of the pupils and the school. So we wondered first of all if you could tell us from your perspective, what exactly is the SEN Governor's role?
Well, I see the SEN Governor's role as being what I call a critical friend, because I think one of the issues about being a SENCO is you can actually be quite isolated in the work that you're doing, especially if you're not on the leadership team. And especially if you're not class-based teacher, because teachers often think you're just wandering around, and so the SEN Governor is a critical friend who I see as being a real strong support for, if you like, supporting you when you're trying to meet the needs of the individuals at that strategic level.
Yes.
And so it's another person who can, if you like, fight the corner of the children at a leadership level. They also have a duty as part of the governing body to ensure that all the children who are identified as having a special need have their needs met in whatever sort of capacity that might be. It doesn't have to be an individual governor, I have to say. It can be a group of governors, so you can have a sort of SEN committee, but I would encourage all SENCOs to try and get one governor who they feel they can link into as regularly as possible.
The next question is around the practicalities, and one that we've had from several SENCOs, where the SEN Governor works full time. It's not really available much to come in during the school day, and trying to think around activities that the SENCO can do with the SEN Governor to make sure that the SEN Governor is spending their time most effectively. So we wondered if you could suggest any particularly good ways for SENCOs to engage with the Governor.
I mean, my recommendation would be that there is a termly meeting with an SEN Governor between the SENCO and the SEN Governor, which doesn't have to take place in school time. It doesn't have to be about taking the SEN Governor around the school and showing them what's going on. What it needs to be is sharing with between the SENCO and the SEN Governor the numbers of children they've got on the sort of SEN register are being identified, the types of needs that those children have got, and the interventions and the strategies that are being used to support those young people, and any data, I suppose, that's coming out that's showing that progress is being made. I also think, and this is about a confidence level really, that the SENCO ought to be able to share with the SEN Governor concerns that they've got, not particularly about individual teachers, but concerns that are in a whole school way. We know that every teacher is a teacher of children with special needs, and I think again the SEN Governor is sort of somebody that can support the SENCO in getting that message across in a holistic way.
Along the same theme, one of our SENCOs asked, are there any activities you could suggest for after school that would help the SENCO and the SEN Governor get to know each other? At the moment, some of them feel they barely know each other. Yeah,
I think the first thing to do is to get to know each other and just sort of find out a little bit about the SENCO telling the SEN Governor who they are, what they are, what their aspirations are, where they see SEN in the school, and from the SEN Governor's point of view, I think it's important for them to say why they want to be the SEN Governor, because again, I'm probably assuming, but probably rightly, that many just fell into the role and probably don't know that much about SEN per se. So I think it's very important that they have that sort of off the record type of conversation really. But I think it is important that the SENCO and the SEN Governor are in tune with each other. That they are actually sort of wanting to support the children in the school and to make the provision better for everyone. So it's probably about the SENCO sharing with the SEN Governor some of the practice that is going on in the school, maybe sharing some of the work that the children have been doing, and which indicates the progress that some of these children are making, so that the SEN Governor can get a picture of, you know, we are doing all of these things well, and you know, there is some good activity going on in the school. And that will make the SENCO feel that the SEN Governor's got a bit of a sort of feel for the school and how it's managing the SEN provision.
Yeah. The next one is more of a concern really, and we would very much welcome your advice on, is around confidentiality. Several people have told us that the SEN Governor in their school is a parent, and they worry about the kind of information that they can share with them about policy and provision within the school. I wonder what your advice was around that.
I have a bit of an issue about parents being the SEN Governor, I have to say. And I would always say when a new governor is appointed, that needs to be taken into account. I have had an instance where, you know, the school had the SEN Governor was the head teacher, who was also the head teacher on the governing body, and was the SENCO. So, you know, I think you need to look at the makeup of the governing body, and I know it is difficult sometimes to you know, allocate roles and responsibilities. I would always say it ought to be either a co-opted or a local authority, or probably one of those governors that is not actually attached to the school, so not a parent, not a staff governor, because I actually think that then is supportive of the SENCO. If it is somebody in-house, so to speak, you have all sorts of issues, not just confidentiality with parents, and that's a big issue, but if it was a staff governor, you have issues about sort of conflict of interest within the staff room, and you know, that confidentiality amongst staff. So I think that in reality, if it was ever possible, my suggestion would be that it should be one of the sort of additional governors that are not actually attached to the school.
If it is a parent though, because that's the reality in some cases, have you got any advice?
I mean, if it is a parent, I think that you need to set out right from the very beginning the role that this person is undertaking as the SEN Governor, and there are guidelines on what the SEN Governor can do, and you know, NASEN has got copies of those, but we can, you know, they're out there on the internet. But I think it's really important that the SENCO and the SEN Governor have that conversation about confidentiality, and often the parents who want to take on this role do so because they have a child or children who have difficulties, and they think this is the way they champion for their children. So again, I think it needs to be made very clear that the SEN Governor is there for all the children in the school, not just for their particular children. And that's difficult, and those are difficult conversations. But actually, if we want that status to be the SENCO at that strategic level, those are the sort of conversations they might have to have in the future.
Thank you. The next question is linked really, and to ask you whether you feel that the SEN Governor should be involved in monitoring the pupils' progress.
If we're talking about monitoring in terms of going into classrooms and doing observations, then I would say no. I don't think that that's what, well, governors are there for, but particularly not SEN governors. I think that what SEN governors need to do, and I sort of said this previously, is that they need to be monitoring, you know, what interventions are in school, what strategies are being used, and what progress is being seen from those being done, and be able to question if there isn't progress. So, you know, if they're looking at the data and they're looking at the sort of progression guidance and all of that sort of thing, and they can actually see from that a certain group of children are not making progress, then the SEN Governor then ought to be able to question and say, well, you know, what have we been doing with these young people, and what can we do in the future? You know, and then the SENCO needs to be able to have that conversation about, well, actually, we need this intervention, or we need this strategy, or we need this piece of equipment, and then you've got the SEN Governor then has got the information they need to then be saying, when we're looking at the budget, we desperately need to bring this into the school to support this group of children. And that's how I would see monitoring, not from a sort of going into classrooms or looking through children's books type of activity.